Ohio State is one step closer to securing their spot in the Big Ten Championship.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. During today's show, we'll talk about the Buckeyes defense getting the job done and what we learned about the Buckeyes O-line on Saturday, as well as Ohio State doing what is needed to secure a win over Penn State Saturday and making sure that they're one step closer to making it to the Big Ten Championship game, which is what needed to happen. That was a mindset going in, and we all knew what was at stake. Ohio State losing that game, if they lost that game, there would be a shot for them to still be in the Big Ten Championship game at the end of the year, but it would be a whole lot harder. And even if they won out, it would still be a possibility that they wouldn't make it. And right now what we're seeing from Ohio State is a team that understands what's in front of them. They knew what was at stake. Ohio State, Ryan Day, Will Howard, everybody on that team and on the coaching staff, they knew what was at stake. They realized that they lost that game. You can kind of kiss making sure you have a shot in a Big Ten Championship game goodbye. That didn't happen. And it's fun watching a team be able to know what's at stake, rise to the occasion, and really just lay it all out there on the line and saying, whatever we have to do to win this game, we're going to make that thing happen. That's what they did. And for Ryan Day and for Will Howard and for anybody else, this should be what you want. A spot right now at this point of the season to build confidence. And Ohio State's doing that right now. Think about what we learned from the running game, where there were questions. The previous 6 quarters before that Penn State game started, there were struggles running the ball. Ohio State in the previous 6 quarters wasn't able to run the ball, had less than 100 rushing yards in 6 quarters. But in this game, it wasn't just making sure Quinshon Judkins started this day. That switch from number 32 to number 1, that wasn't the reason why the Buckeyes were able to run the ball better. It's a mentality, man. And the Buckeyes have the right mentality right now. They have a mentality to shift and adjust. And Chip Kelly did some good things. Jim Knowles did some good things. All the coaches did good things. Justin Fry, let's stop it right here. We're going to talk more about Justin Fry's unit in a little bit. But I'm going to tell you this. They don't win this game if the O-line does not play the way they did at all. You don't. Because even if you have a lead 20-13 with 5 minutes left, back up on your own 1-yard line, and you don't have a shot to go 11 plays, 11 straight runs to secure the game. You don't have that opportunity. Why? Because you don't have the trust in the O-line at all. You may have the lead 20-13, but 9 times out of 10, Penn State's able to stop your offense. They're able to get the ball back and have a shot to score. Now, I'm not saying Ohio State doesn't win the game, but the circumstances are different. But everybody, maybe for the first time in a while, in a big game, you had a belief in Ohio State's O-line that they were going to get the job done. And that goes to not just Justin Fry, but to Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, that they are doing a lot of things right. We're sitting here right now talking about a team that I believe firmly right now, they're going to be in the Big Ten Championship game. They're going to be there in Indianapolis. I know the kind of threat Indiana's going to be in a few weeks, and I'm not sitting here going to say that what's going to happen in that game, trying to dissect it yet. But I do know this. Will Howard's confident. Ryan Day's confident. And this team's building confidence at the right time. And if I am Purdue, Northwestern, if I am Indiana or even Michigan, I am trying to figure out what can we do to combat this team. Because one of our keys to the game this past weekend was to look to the outside, was to look to Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. That's mainly because there was no trust in Ohio State's offensive line. There wasn't trust that the guys up front were going to get the job done. So instead of trying to force something to work, put a square peg in a round, instead of trying to figure this thing out, no. Let's shift the game plan. And that goes what I believe as an analyst, what I believe about as a football fan. You don't go outside and then try to make that to work inside. That's stupid. That's not good football. That's not a good game plan. You use the inside to work out. Just like old school basketball, where you had guys like Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon and Tim Duncan and David Robinson and all of these great Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, all these great big men. What did they do? If you force it inside first, it opens up things on the outside later. Now, this age of basketball, sometimes they try to work outside in, and it does cause some havoc. It does cause some issues. The best game plan is always inside out. Same for basketball, same for football. It's inside out. And when Ohio State was able to go inside out, it just made things a whole lot easier. Now, also, Will Howard had a touchdown pass to Brandon Ennis, a touchdown pass to who was the other one? Was it a Mecca Buka? Excuse me. That one kind of escaped me. Now, those things happened, but also when those passes went out, they were a whole lot easier than maybe you would expect. Why? Because Penn State's defense was so focused on the run, was so focused on number 32 and number 1 and even number 18, who were threats in the run game over the weekend. So worried about those guys that it kind of made the windows bigger for Ennis, for Abuka, for Jeremiah Smith, and others that caught the ball on Saturday. Even Jelani Thurman, that was a little bit more different. That was a big time situation. But Jelani Thurman was able to get open because, well, Penn State's defense had to focus so much attention and put so much of their thought into the run that it made some other guys be able to be bigger pieces of the pie on Saturday. And for Ryan Day going forward, this is what you want. You want your team. You want your unit. You want everybody on your team to realize, yeah, we know he went into Oregon in a hostile environment, Austin Stadium, and lost that game, but only by 1 point. Penn State's a really good team. I don't care what anybody says around the country or tries to diminish that kind of win. No, that's a good team. And Ohio State held them to under 300 yards of total offense. They didn't allow their two guys in the backfield, and Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, to get anything going. And we knew if that was able to happen, that's going to open up things for Drew Aller or maybe even Bo Perbula to kind of get things going on the outside. No. Where Ohio State was able to get stuff on the run game, Penn State wasn't able to get anything going in the run game. And I was happy, very, very happy about that. But also, this is one of those stepping stones. It's the building block. A step in the right direction is the first step. Now Ohio State has to build off this performance. We know it's only Monday, a victory Monday, so we don't want to get too deep into the game plan for Purdue, which very well could be very similar to, well, make sure your young guys get on the field just a little bit earlier than normal because this is going to be a blowout. It's in Columbus. It's at 12 noon. It is on Fox. It's not big noon, though. It is a big noon, like that big noon window as far as the game. But big noon's going to be in Lubbock, Texas, I believe, for this weekend. They're not going to be in Columbus, Ohio, which is cool with me. Like, I don't mind. I wish this game was a little bit later, kick of the day, but that's okay. What is also okay is that Ohio State's taking steps in the right direction. The issues you thought we would have after this game, Ohio State doesn't have. They kind of figured some things out offensively. The defense did their thing. And Ryan Day was happy. They had an epic celebration in the locker room after the game. If you did not see that circulating the Twitter or the Instagram, probably search it. I don't know whose Twitter feed it was on, but let me tell you, y'all, they had a time. And when you see Jim Knowles get in the middle of that dance circle, y'all might laugh like I did, but they had a reason to laugh. It's fun. It was exciting. They had a reason to celebrate like that because most schools in the country don't go to Penn State on that day in that environment and win. Most schools don't. Ohio State did. That's the reason to pat themselves on the back and realize if they take care of business, they're going to be in Indianapolis, potentially with a rematch with Oregon for a shot to win a Big Ten championship. Now, for them to win a Big Ten championship, the O-line has to continue to put in work because that's exactly what they did Saturday in Happy Valley. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. Y'all, we see you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, Your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5-hour energy shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5-hour energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. Thank you all for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. One thing we loved watching over the weekend is the Buckeyes offensive line put in work. And one thing we had been calling for and kind of pounded the table for over the past few weeks is to, one, utilize Carson Hensman as another one that I'm going to talk about later on, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe all week, because it still needs to happen. Carson Hensman got the start on Saturday. Carson Hensman at left guard. Left tackle is Donovan Jackson. The concerns we had there on the left side of the O-line, those turned into a strength for the Buckeyes offensive line. And late in the game, they ran behind those two big hawk mollies over and over and over again in tune to make sure Ohio State secured that win. And Justin Fry's been putting in work, man. Just like that unit's been putting in work, that group, that coach right there has been putting in work, because no coach around the country believes you're going to lose one left tackle. And then if you lose two left tackles, those are your two starting guys, it's an issue. Like, that's legitimately an issue. However, what we saw in this game was that Donovan Jackson at left tackle, Carson Hensman at right guard, that might be the combination that Ohio State needs to move forward with. Even if Zen Mahalski gets healthy, keep him on the bench, use those two guys, because that might be the duo Ohio State needs to lean on the rest of the way for the O-line to be the best five that Ohio State has this year. And this is great. This is a great step in the right direction. If Ohio State's able to get some type of consistent run game again with Henderson and Judkins and Will Howard, with all three of those guys, that three-headed monster, watch out. Because we all know for Ohio State to win a championship game, a Big Ten championship game, for them to win the Natty, they need a ground game. You don't want to go into that thing realizing you're only an air raid offense and there's no sign of a run game at all. I'm not saying you're not going to run the ball, but honestly, man, if you can't run the ball, kiss them dreams goodbye. It's going to be night for everybody on Ohio State's team. They're probably going to still win some games, but them trophy games, it's going to be tough to win those. But if Ohio State's able to get this run game going over and over and over and over and over, you're probably going to blow out Michigan. Like, Michigan's not good, don't get me wrong, but that blowout, that might be a mild whopping. I'm not going to say Ohio State's going to put 100 on them. I'm not saying that. Could they win by 30 plus? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game could be over by midway through the second quarter. Why? Michigan's not good, and Ohio State might be hitting on all cylinders at that point in time. It all starts with the offensive line, though. When Timmons went down, when Mahalski went down, when we heard that Donovan Jackson might be going to left tackle, the question was left guard. Now, my question I got right now, and I don't know if we're ever going to get an answer about this, why did it take so long to put Carson Hensman in? Even at right guard, why did it take so long to put him in there with that starting unit? Now, I understand he's at a new position earlier in the year, and you said that him and Seth McLaughlin could go back and forth between right guard to center, and I was like, okay, cool. He played a little bit early. Didn't really see much of him. We heard you were going to rotate at right guard, which what we say on this show, that was stupid. What have we seen lately? They not rotate nobody at right guard. It's Tegra's job. Go on the Instagram. You're going to see how Ohio State graded out Carson Hensman versus Tegra Shabola in that game. But in that game against Penn State, who did you want to put in that spot at left guard, which was a hole? Somebody that has played on that big stage before. Also somebody that's played Penn State before. That's Carson Hensman. So for a team that's had issues with offensive line health, it blows my mind that was not a thought earlier. Because I don't think Carson Hensman's bad. I know people last year looked at the film and said, oh, he's a little liability. He's this, he's that. And you would expect him to be a little bit better in year number 2. Why did they wait so long? I don't know. That's literally one of those confusing things about this team that we hope we kind of get some answers to. I'm not saying we will, but if we get answers to it and we find out, well, it was a sickness or was it injury, we would understand that. But if it was if they blatantly overlooked him, or they looked at him and said, nah, we're going to go with somebody else, we're going to say that may have been a mistake. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We're not at practice, so we don't see those things. But you know what I also see? What I do see? It's what happens in games. Carson Hensman was not a liability on Saturday. Honestly, he may have been a strength for the team. And once you get this O-line working, especially in pass pro, Will Howard's going to have the ability to do so much going into the season, because it has been an issue sometimes, occasionally, that one of your tackles, that right tackle spot sometimes has been a little bit of an issue in pass pro and pass protection. Now you're able to get some help from the running backs and get some help from sometimes the tight ends, but a lot of the time that right tackle spot's been a little iffy, but not consistently. Randomly, a point here and a point there. It's a little bit iffy. This past Saturday, it was a little issue with Donovan Jackson on Abdul Carter. But we talked about it before the show, before the game. If Ohio State left Jackson one-on-one with Carter, who was going to win that battle 9 times out of 10? It was going to be Abdul Carter. Donovan Jackson is not going to win that. Like, we knew that beforehand. And we know they want to sometimes go 5 wide, and sometimes if there's a running back in, the running back might be in the backfield but going out. A lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. So there's still some stuff that got to clean up. But being able to grind it out, being able to get behind those 5 on the offensive line and say, we're going to utilize you to win the game, and to make that thing a goal, and to not only make it a goal, but to not lose poise, to not have issues. Even when there was a play when they only gained 2 yards on that final drive or didn't gain a yard at all, they kept their mind right. And Ohio State moving forward, stick with this 5. If Mahalski gets back, I've said it, I'll say it once, I'll say it again, don't go back to him. Keep this 5, but also protect that left side. If you go up against a team that has a really good speed rusher on the outside that lines up on that side occasionally, there is no reason at all why you should leave Donovan Jackson a high end drive. There's no reason at all why you would even have a desire in the playbook to allow him to do that. Even if it's, hey, tight end, go out for a route, but hit that guy on the end of the line for the defense and then go out for your route. Little things like that slow down a speed rusher, slow down a pass rusher, which give Donovan Jackson a half a second, a quarter of a second more, maybe a full second to be able to prepare to combat whatever that guy throws at him. So for Ohio State's O-line, this is what you want. You want this unit to be able to bounce back like this and really blow everybody out of the water with how well they played, but also you want everyone to have confidence in them. Not about me having confidence in them. It's about the team, the teammates. I don't care what Henderson or Judkins may have said about, oh, we have faith in these guys. Our eyeballs told us that they were not getting the job done. I got faith in some people that may not be getting the job done, but also that I believe that they'll be able to do it down the road. And so, yeah, they may have said they have faith in them. They shouldn't have, though, because they weren't doing a lot of the things right. Sometimes the coaches were letting the players down. There's a lot of things going on with the team that were a little iffy. They're not that way anymore. And for Ohio State's offensive line, keep going. Keep going. I mean, I don't normally clap like this on a Monday. Y'all, let me tell you, that was a lot of fun to watch. One, I will keep this little thing brief. Continue to start number 1 over number 32. The way he runs the ball is the way you need to run the ball to accomplish all your goals this year. I'll leave it at that. With that topic, though, the one last thought I have, at least on this Monday, this Victory Monday, about Ohio State's win over Penn State, it's about them silver bullets. And y'all, they got the job done. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Once again, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All the action goes down in a couple places on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Thank y'all for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. The Silver Bullets came into this game with a belief that they could do some great things and build up off their performance against Nebraska. That was a really wonky game. They did some things that weren't normal, that were uncharacteristic, but they knew that this game in Penn State on the road, they knew they were going to have to play out of their minds to beat Penn State. Healthy Drew Allar or not, Penn State's a really talented team. They're a top, I don't know what the new rankings are, where they are, I forget, but I know they're a top 5 team in the country, I do believe. And what we found in that day, the Silver Bullets went to Happy Valley. They turned that place into Sad Valley because their play just showed Penn State ain't nothing Penn State's offense is going to be able to do because the Buckeyes defense controlled everything. And it starts up front. The D-line has been one that has not played up to par this year. However, in this game, we found a little mix, the proper mix that we wanted from the defensive line. We saw occasionally Mitchell Malta playing with some of the starters. We saw Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson mix with some of the starters in situations that weren't obvious passing downs. We saw Caden McDonald and Hero Canoe. We even saw sometimes a 5-man line. I think it was, I believe this time I'm thinking about was the 4 starters, and then Caden McDonald came in, made a 5-man line, turned it into, I don't know if it was a 5-2 or 5-3. Forget how many backers were on the field at this time. But they were basically saying, we're going to change some things up and do things a little bit different. With a defense that should be one of the better ones in the country, and statistically, they're top 10, and I believe 4 of the major defensive stat categories right now for this defense. Just as Ohio State is one step closer to Indianapolis, this defense is inching closer and closer and closer to being a championship level defense, which is what you want. You want this defense right now to literally be in midseason form. You want this defense right now to go on the road in that environment and say, we don't care what Penn State's going to try. They're not going to have any success. You want this defense right now to come out and show everybody we're going to be better at linebacker. We're going to be flying all over the ball. Our lead of the block, Cody Simon, is one of the best players. He continues, to get better and better and better. And even though some of the guys with their production not really being seen in the stat sheet, that doesn't mean their production is not felt. Caleb Downs, one of those plays where he had late in the game that may not have been in the stat sheet, was one of the best ones there. Now, it wasn't all Caleb Downs in that play. Cody Simon played a part. Lathan Ransom played a part. The guys up front at the D-line, they played a part, because during that final stretch, during that goal line stand, what do we find? That Caden McDonald occasionally literally manhandled that center from Penn State. And when he manhandled him, put him back in the backfield, this was on a play when number 71 was still at his motion depth, which was a couple yards behind the line of scrimmage. That was where Caden McDonald pushed that center. So it's Drew Allar is trying to hand the ball off to the running back. I believe it was Katron Allen. What we find is his path has to be altered because Caden McDonald said, I got a meeting with you, and it's in the backfield. It's what you want, man. You want the guys up front to do their job and to do it so well, it makes Igbenogsen's job easier. It makes Sonny Styles' job easier. It makes Arvo Reese's job easier. You want the guys up front to get the job done, because just like on the offense, where if the offensive line does not get the job done, it's going to be a struggle bus. Everybody and their mama going to be struggling. You're going to be struggling to move the ball. You're going to be struggling to have confidence that you'll be able to block for your quarterback. Everybody and their mama, I'm saying like that for emphasis, everybody and their mama going to be struggling. Same thing goes on defense. If the D-line doesn't get the job done, it makes the linebackers' jobs harder. It makes the secondary job harder. Think back to a few years ago, and I hate to bring up a sore wound, but we got to. I don't know if it was 2021 or 2022. Forget which year. But one of those 2 years, one of the issues in the Michigan game was that Ohio State's defensive line did not cover up the offensive linemen and allowed them to get a free path to the second level. So they were quickly covering up Cody Simon and Tommy Eichenberg on these days. I forget who the other linebackers were. LB's are trash anyway that year, so I don't know exactly which one it was. But Ohio State's defensive line didn't do a good job of getting their hands on the O-lineman of Michigan, and that's the big reason why Michigan had a field day. There are other things that went on in that game and in those games. I'm not going to dive into them because there are some things that Ohio State's defense did not do and was not able to do because of the lack of production from the defensive line on that day. Don't know which year it was. Obviously, it was probably both because both years Ohio State didn't play good enough to win. I'll leave it at that. What we're finding now, if you look at the stat sheet, and I don't know the exact numbers, don't really care right now, but if you look at them, what you're going to find is a lot of the top tacklers in this game in Ohio State's defense were linebackers. I know Cody Simon led the way. I know Sonny Styles was in the top 3 or top 5 for leading tacklers. You're also going to find that Latham Ransom is probably going to be up there too. But they're only able to do that if the defensive line is not only getting penetration, but is stalling blocks at the line of scrimmage and is not allowing Penn State's O-line to get to the second level. This goes back into the same thing we said earlier. It's not just a win that Ohio State have over Penn State that gives me confidence Ohio State will be in Indianapolis for the Big Ten Championship game, but it's what went down during those 60 minutes. The big reason why Penn State couldn't get anything done, the D-line controlled things. I mean, go back and look at the stats. They're not good for Penn State. You would literally look at this game and say, not only was it a defensive battle on both sides, because I think Penn State's defense did some good things for Ohio State's offense and didn't allow them to get things done. Excuse me, those of you watching right now, I got something in my eye. Not really sure what's going on. But Penn State's offense was not really successful because the Buckeyes D-line was just too fierce. And if I'm moving forward, if I'm Larry Johnson, yeah, there's still some stuff you got to fix. As the Silver Bullets, the unit got the job done. I'm still baffled, and I don't mean to end the show on a negative note, but I think it's going to take up the rest of the time that we have together today. I'm very, 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 very confused as to why Ohio State's defensive tackles are really good in stopping the run. But when it comes to pass pro, it seems like they part the Red Sea and allow every quarterback to just move up the pocket. Also, defensive ends, why are you running past the quarterback and not collapsing the quarterback? I mean, collapsing the pocket on the quarterback. Watch any NFL game. Nick Bosa. Watch these guys in the NFL. And you're going to find they don't run past the quarterback. They force that thing to collapse and force the quarterback to not be able to get squeezed by both defensive ends. And then also for the defensive tackles, they don't go upfield and then go out. They push that thing back. So the pocket, there's nowhere for the quarterback to move up into, but also the quarterback can't go back too far, can't go too right, can't go too left because the pocket collapses. 2 tweaks for the D tackle, one for the D tackles, one for the D end. For the D tackles to get better in pass pro, push back. Maybe just be more of a straight bull rush instead of trying to do a rip and go a little bit outside. Do a bull rush and just go straight. You may not really go anywhere, but the quarterback, now you may go back a little bit, which restricts the amount of room the quarterback is able to move up into the pocket, but also for the defensive ends, figure out where your depth is and then just cut in. Because that will restrict you from running past the quarterback, which will allow you to get more sacks this weekend. Down the road, against Northwestern, against Curtis Work in a few weeks, against whatever quarterback Michigan plays at the end of the season. Not really sure who Michigan's going to play. It's not really going to matter. But if Ohio State's defensive line tweaks the pass rush at D tackle and D end, you could be looking at a unit that could have the most sacks during a 4-week period over the next 4 weeks because they fixed that thing at the right time of year. Thank you all for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes here on this Victory Monday. For your second listen of the day, make sure you check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Sheeman puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Oh, before we get up out of here, y'all, tonight the Buckeye basketball team is back. The Jake Deibler era gets underway as Ohio State plays Texas in Vegas, and their basketball season starts. It's on TNT. It's a late tip-off. It's on 10 p.m. Eastern time. Spiro Adidas, Grant Hill, Candace Parker, Taylor Rooks, they're on the call this game. I know it's late. Many of us are not up that late, but if you're eager to watch Buckeye basketball, make it an appointment to record that thing or stay up late and watch the entire game. I'm excited to get this era underway and to see what Jake Deibler does at the Buckeye basketball program that is thirsty for success. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. We're up out of here on a Monday. We'll see you next time.